Continue to,
and I will resignations by now. August in year 2025. But you know what? I chose this. I want to be a good man. It's stupid.
sit down at home, decided to watch some TV, listening to the news by Gordon Mosley. I listening to the things that he say he tracking tonight, paying close attention to make sure I hear it right. Now when I hear the things that he mentioned on the news, I had to declare them kind of thing got me confused. I hear some things where the ERC noticing and it convinced people that people ain't learning nothing. We hear so many times about them big name calling, and they say me or see pretend that they didn't learn nothing. But once you're black and you just decide to say a word or two, bet your life on that they say BRC coming for you. Listen to the things you just hear on social media. Only one set of people allowed to talk in one Guyana. I still say nothing, black people in learning. But this is my concern. I hope one day black people will learn. ERC that I would like to know if any of his members happens to be black people. And if that is the case, I want them to answer this call. Tell me how come none of them ain't got no voice at all. You're showing signs of weakness and you're afraid to be fair. And we see the same thing keep happening year after year. And the day will come when all this nonsense will stop. That will be the day when black people decide to wake up. Not so long ago, something terrible happened. This young Indian man want to kill out all black people by poison. But if his shoes was on the other foot, would have been a big threat. But up to this day, this TRC can do nothing as yet. How come it's only black people committing cybercrime? When pretty on social media fussing people all the time. I still saying black people in learning. But one day will come when the entire table will turn. Excuse me, see they fail to condemn because these people think that the law is only for them. And anybody else who decide to file a complaint, they go call you a racist and don't want to hear nothing. Plenty complaint from time to time has been brought to their attention, but because of this one-sided cybercrime is why they don't show any concern. There's only one set of people that they really care about, and black people must take the abuse and shut them out. Kidaki Amsterdam went to court just recently for an issue that was highlighted by the same ERC. And with breakneck speed, the police decide to jump on his case. Without a search warrant, they went and search up the man's place. Let us all agree that black people under attack. Different laws for you and me just because we black. I still saying black people in London. To all my black friends, we must put a stop to all this nonsense. cybercrime laws to keep people silent, just to make sure nobody criticize this government. And while that is a very clear case of dictatorship, it is no surprise that the ERC ignoring it. Why only the chosen few is allowed to have things their way, when people like me and you must have nothing to say? And when ministers in the government start to launch their attack, you never hear this ERC come out and talk about that. They send a policeman all the way to New York. This fella went up there to serve a coastman on recall bar. Under this this government decide to fabricate a case, but like they forget the warning they get from Latisha James. The vice president described that he used as a low life. Because of this kind of abuse, he don't have a wife. I still singing, black people in learning. Just the other day, I hope your man see help is on the way.
All right, so today we are here at Club Twilight up in Buxton, and we are here to talk about all that's going on up here. Trust me, if you are on the East Coast, you're in Buxton, you're in Tongue, you're looking for a place to get away to, this is the place. The Cutters, mwah. Listen, I'll be having some just now again. We'll talk about that. And then, of course, the ambience is beautiful, fully air conditioned. The decor is on point. The music's on point. Everything's on point. It's just me. I need some work. But everything else that belongs to this club here is on point. So if you want to find a nice little place where you can just drive out of town and have some drinks, have some food, you can call, you can order your stuff and just take it. You don't have to stay. Or if you want to stay here, that's what's up. And of course, they have special events for Valentine's. You can rent a hall. You can rent a hall, honey. You can rent a hall for weddings, for birthday parties, to have a bash. I hope he edits that out. But you know, whatever it is, this is definitely the place to be. So it's on Sideline Dam. You definitely want to ensure that you check this place out. But it's on your to-do list. All right, on your to-do list. This is definitely the place to check out, you know, a really cool, chill spot here in Buxton. I like this. This is, Buxton needed this. We needed this. I needed this. You definitely needed too. Thank you. All right, so you might be wondering where we are, still in Buxton at Club Twilight. That's where we are. So Club Twilight also has like an Airbnb as well. So you could come, drink, drunk, and come in the back here and lie down. Look at that. Look at that. Perfection. And the people come in the room and so on. The bed sheet matching the blind, matching the carpet, matching the this, matching the that. We know but we things in Buxton don't play with we. So definitely if you want to come and, you know, you may be having a wedding or whatever and you just want to overnight and just have a good time because you're going to be drunk. We got too much road accidents. So you definitely want to come drink, have a good time. They have several rooms that you can rent. You have your toilet, you have your bath, you have your sink, you have your dining area. You have the bed. This is nice. I like it. Anyways, to my friends and my family, if you're looking for me, I'll be overnighting. Also for those persons who are traveling in from overseas, you want a nice, cozy place out of town, then Club Twilight, call them up, look them up on social media. They have their own Facebook page, and ensure that you come up the side and have a good time. Have a good time. Have a good time. Sorry. I'm sorry. That's it.
How many bowel movements do you have a day? If the answer is one or less, we need to talk. Everything starts in the gut. Toxins, bloating, constipation, even parasites can build up silently, affecting your mood, your skin, your immune system, and your energy. Ultra Body Cleanse is a simple 15-day system. Morning tablet to flush from the inside. Nighttime tea to detox and reset. People don't realize it, but most problems start in the gut. And when you clean it out, you feel lighter, you look healthier. You finally go. Like you should. Don't wait for symptoms. Ask your artist distributor today how to start your Ultra Body Cleanse.
Don't be a victim. Beat the heat with EC Crystals. Party ice in large and small quantities. Call 682-7981 or visit us at Club Twilight, Sideline Dam, Buxton North. EC Crystals, pure party ice.
You can get meat anywhere, but for the best cuts of chicken, beef, pork, mutton, and lots more, check out T&W Harris Butcher Shop, located in the East Ramvelt Market Meat Section. Call us on 609-7168, 641-4494. Ask for Rastaman. T&W Harris Butcher Shop, for the best in fresh cut meats and lots more.
Are you looking for tents to rent? Well, look no further. At Easy Party Rentals, Sideline Dam, Buxton North, we have tents in all sizes and colors. All sizes of tents we have. Small tents, big tents, medium tents, extra large tents. Call us on 622-5933. We have what you need. Easy Party Rentals. Big on tents. Are you hosting an event? Do you need ice, party ice in large or small quantities? Then call us at 622-5933 for the best party ice available. $1,000 per bag. We do delivery. EC Crystals, Sideline Dam, Buxton North. Call to have your orders filled today.
While we beg, milk and honey gone, but we still drink dregs. Them build big house while school roof fall, and poor man crying when rain start fall. Them take oil, gold and timber too, but the children hungry. Tell me what to do. From Berber straight to let them side, it's only lies them they're trying to hide. It's been too long, too long. The PPP must go. We've been silent while them do wrong. Too long, too long. Them thiefing with a suit and a song. Too long, too long. We paid the price, they played the Don. Guyana rise, we must be strong. This can't go on. Nah, this can't go on. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Contract sign in the middle of night. No tender, no board, just bribe and spite. Them cousin, them friend, them pot the deal. While pensioners can't afford one meal. The court slow, the press hush, hush. And critics end up on the bus. You talk too loud, they label you bad. But silence now gon' drive we mad. It's been too long, too long. The PPP must go. We've been watching while they plunder and gone. Too long, too long. It's only rich men be cheering on. Too long, too long. We dream dead while they live strong. Guyana rising with freedom song. This can't go wrong. Nah, this can't go on. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Who owned the trucks? Who get the land? Who signed the check with blood on hand? Oil money flow, but not to we. Where the hospital, where the subsidy? It's been too long, too long. The PPP must go. We suffering wrong. Stand tall. Time for change. must go, the nation mourning song. One people, one nation, one destiny. Arise up and move along. This can't go on. Nah. Justice, justice, justice now. We tired of bowing down. Freedom, freedom, freedom now. Time to reclaim we crown. Justice, 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 this now. We tired of bowing down.
Hello, good morning, welcome to another program of Guyanese Morning Time. It is now 8 o'clock, a minute to the 8 o'clock hour on the searching day of August in the year 2025. Welcome to the program. I in a kind of mood this morning, I won't believe me, but oh yeah, there, how was yesterday, how was last night, how you are feeling? What y'all think about these elections? What's going on? What part are you playing in mobilizing the base? What part you are playing in mobilizing the base? Now the base will be mobilized, you know. Everybody are knowing about the tapes. Listen. I don't know who released the tape with the interview that Travis Chase did, but what I know, what I know is in any other democracy, they didn't have no elections, you know. The government would just pack its things and walk out of the country and tell the Guyanese, you put who you want in there. I mean, I'm being extreme. But in any other democracy, there's no way a party like the PPP could be returned to government after the September 1st election. But I told a friend of mine yesterday, I said, you know what the funny thing is? Despite all of those revelations, they're still going to get votes. They're still going to get votes. The supporters in particular are going to still vote for them. Because they believe in corruption. They believe unless you could be corrupt, you're progressive. Unless you could be corrupt, you're smart. Unless you could be corrupt, you're a good business person. Yes, eh? It's some while I rubbing my hands with, man. I like the scent and I like the texture and everything. Yeah. Right? It's relaxing, you know. So I'm trying to relax a bit for you. Yeah. So I still believe that we live in a sick country. A country of sick people, where the leadership are followers. Because I am saying that in any other democracy, there would have been a lot of resignations by now. And since a lot of the people whose names have been called in that tape are on the PPP's list of candidates to this current election, there's no coming back for the PPP. But guess what? I ain't gonna hold my breath because I want to live to a ripe old age.
I want to live to a ripe old age. And we are going to see the sickness of this nation on the 1st of September. We are going to see the sickness of this nation on the 1st of September. Because despite all of that information of corruption and government ministers' involvement in corruption, they are going to get a lot of votes come September 1. I ain't said they're going to win the election, but they're going to get votes. And I'm maintaining, I'm saying, I'm repeating so you can understand. In any other democracy, where people stupid bad according to the vice president, resignations would have been happening from the next hour of the release of that tape. And the PPP would have lost popularity in Guyana. And so there was no coming back after September 1st. But I'm waiting. I'm holding my breath. You've been given several other reasons as citizens of this country as to why the PPP must be voted out of office. The Leno Craigs and the James Bonds and the German Figueras, I want you all to listen to the tape and analyze it and see where the sole Afro-Guyanese was placed in the chain of things. He was a mere bag boy, a glorified bag boy. We like to call the youngsters who, because of the circumstances and because of how things are set up in this society, we call them scripts and we call them all kind of things. We call them mules. We used to call them drug mules, but they got different kind of mules now. They ain't only moving drugs, they're moving guns, they're moving all kinds of illicit, but they're just that mules. And so listening to the tape, I concluded, I say, here is another black brother who a lot of us looked at and continue to look at as a successful businessman, turning out to be just another mule for the PPP. Just another mule for the PPP. And again, it highlights something else because, hear me, it is alleged. I don't know if it is true or not. It is alleged that this same brother received tremendous help from the APNU government, more specifically Harmon. It is alleged. Me, you know, I didn't mean there. It is alleged that he received tremendous help from the APNU government, more particularly from Joseph Harmon, to enhance and grow his business. But before the lights were out, he was at the feet of Ali. Well, according to the tapes, he's like a brother to Ali. So one would suspect that he was only masquerading like the Figueras and the Bonds and the rest of them. Then he's Champagne Kush Kush. Yeah. So all of you who run into the PPP and say, hey, that man nice, that man, I get in a break and so on. Check your position again. Check your position again. You are not an overseer. You're not a field slave, but you're definitely another house slave. And that is where you will always be. You might be a glorified house slave, but at the end of the day, you're a house slave. At the end of the day, you ain't got no say. You could pretend to have a say. You ain't got no say. They will simply say, I approach this man to get the ear of Ali because he and Ali like brothers, and an injustice was being done against me. And he tell me talk to them, man, but guess what? I ain't get no action because them man ain't really listening to you. That is your role in society. This is the role you want to play in this society, my black brothers and sisters. This is the kind of government you want, my black brothers and sisters, citizens of this country, Guyanese in total. This is what I want. A government where a minister could allegedly put a Caesar upon a mining block and then say, I'm going to only allow it to work if I get a cut. And so what used to be a 50-50 arrangement is now a 1/3 arrangement. Is extortion. So you have extortionists in government. We have always known that. The PPP is a government of extortionists and rapists and murderers and misogynists and child abductors and thieves. And this is y'all backing? That's what y'all backing? This is what Guyanese backing? With all that is said on that tape, I ain't got time to replay that tape because I know most, if not all of you, have seen that tape already. There's still people who talking about PPP forever and PPP back is the best government, etc., etc. Sugate wasn't enough. Sugate wasn't enough. Now we get Goldgate. Guyanese, wake up. This is not about ethnicity. This is not about race. This is about our patrimony, our national patrimony. And as usual, the ballet tyrant run out in front and say the government is concerned. Let's recognize the allegations and we're putting systems in place to combat gold smuggling, etc. Gold smuggling was within the PPP since the PPP took government in 1992 or whenever. The PPP was facilitating gold
Hey, y'all, morning, good morning. How you, morning. How you do, It's blackout in GT again. I don't know, like they got it out for me this morning or this week or this month. We got a couple weeks leading up to the elections, you know. Don't let it tell itself that they're going to shut feet down. We ain't up on the road. So I was doing the rebroadcast of yesterday's program, and I am out on the road. Um, I have a few things, you know, going around the country and so. Um, Checking out the estates, as they say, and I noticed a black screen, as most of you would have been seeing, and so I decided to check in. When I checked in, I understand that there is blackout. So if you can hear me, give me a thumbs up. If you can hear me, give me a thumbs up. I am going to try to get back in as quickly as I can and see what I can do to get access to some electricity and continue that rebroadcast of yesterday's morning program. And then, of course, we have Winston Jordan on. Winston Jordan is going to be coming on to talk to us about the economics. Good. In the meantime, y'all tell me, okay, now, what's up? How you been? How are you? How was it yesterday? How was it last night? What significant happened yesterday that gave you inspiration? Or caused you concern? How have you been able to achieve those set goals, those smart goals that you've set? Are you any way closer to achieving them? You know, yesterday I wanted to talk to y'all about something, and it totally slipped me. And since I get the opportunity now, let me tell y'all something. Y'all know that the so-called government, the kleptocrats, the thief in PPP, the criminal cabal. Remember Rodriguez? Yeah, the same one. What's your name called in corrupt practices and so on in relation to land acquisition next to sheriff and who buy the land from she and all of that and all of that. Well, the Central Housing and Planning Authority, as well as the Ministry of Housing, is about to give out land titles. Yeah, I remember that the boasting all the time say they allocate so much land and so on and so forth. In their desperation to improve their popularity among the citizens, they're giving out land titles Saturday. Saturday. How did I know? They called me. Oladoy. They called me. They're calling allottees to go to the National Stadium on Saturday to collect. Well, I'm assuming collect because they say it's about your legal documents for your land allocation. And so I'm assuming since, like y'all know, why I don't keep nothing from y'all. I tell you, I'm a that yeah, they call saying you must go to the National Stadium to process the legal documents for your land. I assume that to mean to get land titles and so on and so forth, right? Good. So the folks are saying, yeah, go to the National Stadium. They want a big crowd, you know. That's what I like do. I like corral people. They want photo shoot, a photo opportunity. Well, you know me. They ain't gonna get one with me. I telling people, you know, I mean Guyanese are usually excited. We just get excited about every little thing, believing that the government is doing us favors. I can see a lot of people gonna run and go down there. because they want the land title. But the truth is, you don't got to run and go no damn way. After Saturday, your land title will be right there. Regardless of which government takes office, your land title going to be right there. So I going to go after Saturday. As a matter of fact, I have a young lady who called me. I said, so what if I can't come to the National Stadium on Saturday? She said, well, it's about the legal documents for your land. I said, what if I can't come on Saturday? Then you'll have to check with the CHNP. I said, okay, good. I go check with the CHMP before or after Saturday. She said after Saturday. So the reality is, all of us can go after Saturday for land titles, or whatever the legal documents they are alluding to in relation to land titling. We don't gotta run down there. Guyanese, I don't know. Um, I mean, I know. I can understand these people beating us into such a state of poverty and neediness and dispossession that the slightest opportunity presents itself for us to get something that, despite the fact it rightfully belongs to us as citizens of this country, we operate as if we never see come for see. We operate as if we're suffering from this accustomed see. We operate as if these people are doing us such a big favor. And so we run to grovel at their feet and so on and so forth. I'm saying you don't have to. You do not have to. All you have to do is give it time. Because your land title is your land title. I'm repeating that. You ain't got to run and go to no national stadium for nothing. Don't let it fool you. Take your time. Don't go stress yourself out through no crowd and heat, and you might risk a heat stroke and that kind of thing. Just take your time and peel the pine, man. That's what them young people used to say. I used to say so as a youngster. Take your time and peel the pine. And if you take your time and peel the pine, then you gotta get those issues of having to go and crowd up and rub up and smell up people. And don't forget, there's some amount of indication, there has been some indication that COVID is on the increase, or COVID is still out there, whichever one you want to interpret it as. So protect yourself, protect your sanity, protect your dignity, and tell them you're going to go for your land title or your legal documents after Saturday. You ain't going to find no poster by your poster girl for the PPP. These days, all see it. You know what they are. But they're desperate about it, doing all kind of thing, to, if I'd say, try to improve on their popularity with the nation again. But the reality is a set of thief. I tell you all already, it's a set of thief. What was quite surprising in that Travis Chase team, though, is the role that the mother of the Don's president plays. A big woman, a former teacher and educator. I wonder what she was teaching people's children. Or even what she was teaching her own. You had to say chip don't fall far from the block. And when you look at Ali and his kleptocratic tendencies, his covetousness, his greed, his avariciousness, you are not to be even surprised that his mother, his mother would have a role in the corrupt practices that he is involved in. You shouldn't even be surprised. You know, I always tell y'all, and y'all know that too, because the scientists prove it. The scientists say, the home is the first place of learning for any individual, and parents are the agents of socialization. And children learn what they live, and they live what they learn. And so all these things are proving true. If the social scientists needed anything to prove their theory, they only got to look at the alleys. It's one corrupt bunch of people, right? I wonder what they're gonna tell Allah. Oh, Lord, oh, I wonder what they're gonna tell Allah, boy, with that kind of behavior. That is not a good look for the religious teachings of Islam. Certainly not. I know they're gonna come and tell me, hey, you're attacking people religion. Me not attacking people religion. I'm talking about the poor example set by people who profess to be representatives of that religion. Right? As we would say, a big old woman. The man in the street would say a big old woman has gotten involved in and encourages her son to be one corrupt thief in public official. But I tell you all again, I'm willing to bet that those who have been described as intellectually lazy will turn out in their numbers and they're going to vote for them thieving, corrupt public officials. Now, if you look at the number of persons' names mentioned, if you look at the individuals who've been accused of wrongdoing on the interview, on the Travis Chase files, I want to call it, you know, um, then you would have no doubt in your mind that what the PPP has offered to Guyanese, what the PPP is asking Guyanese to vote for in this new election, in the September 1st election, is more of the same because all of those persons are on the list. The accused rapist, Darmlal, is on the list. Who wouldn't suggest to somebody that they vote to put an accused rapist in a position of power where they most likely will get protection of the state, like everybody argues? Darmlal has gotten protection of the state, and that is what saved the state following the allegations, right, of sexual predatory behavior, let me call it that. It's by virtue of the fact that he was a minister and that the PPP is so corrupt and disrespectful to the citizens of this country that his skin was saved, right? And so they're saying, all right, we rescued this man once. We made him escape the allegations. We corrupt the process through the hacks, you know, like the DPP and all of them, crime chief and all of them. We ensure that they compromise themselves and compromise the case and everything so that this one not going to see jail as he rightfully deserves. But then they didn't leave it as that. They removed him as a minister, so they say. They find alternative employment for him. That is known. And then, as if to say to Guyanese, y'all are so backward, y'all are so stupid, y'all are so dumb. We could do y'all anything. We could push we finger in your eye, push we finger in your nose, scratch up your face. And you're gonna take it anywhere. You're gonna still smile and you're gonna still love us. Take Lal again. In 2025 elections on September 1st, this is all we got for you. Lal again. Take Lal again. And then you look at the Vikram Bharat and you hear the allegations, which are not new allegations, mind you. These allegations were always being made against Bharat that he has a lot of conflict of interest. as a minister there. He, as a matter of fact, he was a minister when 240 million US dollars disappeared after the assessment for ExxonMobil's taxes, I think. Payments due, right? And they gave some a slap on the wrist. Um, they gave a slap on the wrist. They made him the fall guy, give him a slap on the wrist. And Guyanese are poor for that $240 million up to now. So yeah, Vikram Bharat's name has been featured all the time. And then Rodriguez. Rodriguez's name was featured a while with Showing Greaves, if you remember. Showing Greaves and Ahmad and that those questionable land allocations and so on and so forth. Susan Rodriguez's name was right up there, featured in the corrupt practices. Greaves resigned. I don't know if it is to save face or save skin, but Greaves resigned. Susan Rodriguez never went anyplace. They kept her there again to say to Guyanese, yeah, strip it. And we gonna allow y'all, we gonna give y'all deserve. Right? We ain't moving nobody. And stuff like that. Missing something nearby. What do I do with it? For Vex bad, I'll be really, really angry. Oh, I see it. Right. And then the battle wagon looking for something I gotta forget if we're going to get a little power. We'll continue this program with you all, you know. Um, let me generate today. I can't imagine the amount of stuff I just go and buy in the interest of ensuring that these people don't have bug us when we have to do our programs. Right? Yeah. So we're talking. And so Carlin Rodriguez, not Carlin, Susan, they say, are you text Susan? Regardless of how much corruption her name has been involved in when it comes to land allocation and so on and so forth. Yeah, I text Susan. This is y'all deserve. Y'all deserve Susan. And she's still on the list. So they're offering you Susan again in 2025. And as we like to say, the more things change, the more they remain the same. And so in short, those are just a few names I can call for you. Yeah, a long list of them. And you know them too, so I don't even have to keep calling their names. A whole long list of them. And that is what they are doing. The PPP is saying, we ain't got nothing better to offer you. And if we ain't got nothing better to offer you, at least that would have been my position. If you ain't got nothing better to offer us, then we can't put you in office. We can't put you in office if you ain't got nothing better to offer us. But again, we behave so stupidly in this society. We behave as if the PPP is the only solution, right? Where when in actuality, the PPP is a big problem. The PPP is a big problem, but we treat them like they're the only solution to the problems of this country when they are the ones who are contributing to the creation of the problems of this country, right? So you peruse the list. All those of you supporting the PPP, just peruse the list. And you will come to understand that these people have offered you nothing new. They have not even indicated an effort at redemption for all of the wickedness, all of the corruption, all of the misuse of Guyanese resource and so on that they're guilty of. It is the same list of decadence, the same list of misfits, miscreants that they have offered you for the September 1st election. And you must decide if that is what you want as a government. And I hope that is not what you want as a government. I hope that you recognize that you deserve better, right? All right, so I'm in the studio, and so I will take my leave of you for now. Well, not I will take my leave of you for now. I will join you from a different device.
Good. And so here we are. This wasn't my intended mode of dress for the program, but it is what it is. So let's share the live. Let's share the live. Let's share the live. Let's tell a friend, call a friend that we are here still. Challenge, but we are here. And we're preparing to welcome Finance Minister Winston Jordan. Talk to us about the things. It's boring. Let's say something good. Boss like I sleep out. And I know calling back home. Let me tell you something. Sleep out. Yeah, I like sleep out every now and again. What's wrong with that? You need a change of environment every now and again. Right? Likewise, getting an echo. You have a minute. Me is not them band who just duck and do things, you know. Me don't hide. Me don't like hide to do nothing. I brother. So I just tell people up front, all my story up on the lantern post. So don't come looking for closets. I ain't got nothing hidden in the closets. Right? Good. And you wonder, you're too damn fast. You want to know if I sleep out. What if I sleep out? How much you all sleep out? A lot of people let's know. I think I know what going on here. A lot of people just sleep out. But the unfortunate thing is that people just gotta wake them up all over the morning and say, me go home. Hey, it's 3 o'clock, it's 3 o'clock. You know you can't stay till they clean. Right? I don't want the neighbor know who we going out with. Right. So a lot of you just do that. And nobody don't mind your business. At least I don't mind your business. So I don't know you're minding me business. So anyway, sleeping out, I could stay till they clean. Right? Good. Yeah, so when you look at the offerings of the PPP and you hear the revelations and these tapes, this Travis Chase tape, you have to tell yourself, well, if this is the best that the PPP can offer us, Ghana ain't gonna go at all. We ain't gonna get to that place where we all get to enjoy fully, or even partially, if you ask me, the windfall that is coming from oil and all of our natural resources. This corruption that has been unveiled, revealed by these tapes, by this tape, is not in the oil sector, you know. I want you to pay attention to that. It's not in the wider mining sector, you know, because mining, a lot of people believe mining is just gold and diamond. But you got bauxite and you got sand and you got stone, quarrying, and you got rare earth minerals and so on. And Guyanese don't generally pay attention to those aspects of mining in this country. And we don't, at least I don't ever see too much information on what the country's resources, revenues are from mining outside of gold and bauxite and diamond. I'm not saying it's not there, but I can't really remember seeing much of it. If this is a level of corruption in just the gold mining sector. Usually where there's gold, there's diamond, but you didn't hear any discourse on the diamond mining sector and smuggling and on the reporting and so on that is taking place there. We didn't hear about that. Because like I said, it seems as though a lot of people don't pay attention to that. But if this is a level of corruption in just the gold mining sector, yes, Gail Scott has mentioned timber. If that is the level of corruption just in gold, and that is from a small clique, multiply that, I dare say 100 folds. Multiply that, I dare say 100 folds, and imagine how much resources we are losing. Imagine how much the Guyanese people are being deprived of a better quality of life just by a small group of crooks and criminals associated with the PPP. And tell me if really and truly, regardless of what your ethnicity is, regardless of what political party you like, regardless of which political leader you hate, are you telling me that you will vote to put back such group of people in office? There is no change to come from those people. No change whatsoever. So you don't even think about it. All right, they get skin up, they're going to behave differently in the next government. No, they've been behaving just like that in government since 1992. I'm telling you all again, it is alleged that Jagan dead because he found out that Jagyo had yarn in the kitty jar. The first fire at a government agency, as I remember when the PPP took office, was the Ministry of Housing on Homestretch Avenue. Why you think it burned down? Because people were just careless? There are allegations of large sums of money missing. Look at the forensic audits done by the Granger administration and see how much they have been stealing prior to 2015. The Duns president, it is alleged, was keeping accounts with pencil and paper. So this is not a case of your government turning up short on one occasion. This is a case of the people in your government showing a history of robbing the nation and encouraging others to rob the nation. I don't care what y'all say. The WhatsApp messages are out there from Azruddin Mohammed. The exchanges between Azruddin and Irfan Ali about what is a good amount to pay customs. The good amount, the best amount to pay customs, GRA, for the import of anything is the assessed amount, the correct amount. And any president that works his or her salt, any president that has a grounding in honesty would have said, Bonamir, you are right. But I will not sit here and allow you to rob the coffers of this nation. And so what you've seen is a history of a group of people who continues to rob the coffers of this nation. And so they ain't got no logical thought in my mind that would say, all right, we catch them slipping up, they're going to do differently in the next government. This is what they've been offering this country all the time. Unaccountability, mediocrity, kleptocracy. And they got people still defending them. How can a man get into government and within 4 years he is indecently rich when he barely eking out a living before getting into government? Huh? Yeah, talk to me. The people will turn out to vote for the PPP on the morning of the 1st of September. Amanda Walton Desir described them as perhaps intellectually lazy. But Jagios described them as really, really stupid. I will say they got to be brain dead. And the people continue to campaign for a PPP victory or vote for the PPP, like the Bonds and the Sandys and the Sirams and all of them that got crapo spirit. The Craigs and even the Phillipses and so on. Woe be unto your soul. He that knoweth right and does it not will be whipped with many a stripe. Might be a direct quote or a paraphrase quote from the good book according to the Bible. But you are going to be whipped with many a stripe because you are supporting that which is not right. You can't be for the Guyanese people and support a group of criminals known as the PPP. You are anti-nationals. And anti-nationals must be treated as such. Anti-nationals. You are an enemy to the state of Guyana. All those of you in the PPP and all those of you who campaign and support the PPP. All those of you who will come out to vote for the PPP, I'm really sorry for you. I'm really, really sorry for you. It's not too late. And throw that fear aside, that you know, they like to fear mong and tell you if the coalition gets in government, y'all ain't gonna be treated like the way we treat you. No, y'all ain't gonna be treated like the way the PPP treating you. You're going to be treated better. You're going to be treated like decent human beings who want a decent existence. They ain't gonna be given hush money. When the PPP come out and get cash grant or get a voucher thing, it's like they're giving hush money. It's like a bribe for you to shut your backside. Shut your mouth and allow us to do what we want. Shut your mouth and allow us to steal you out. No, the coalition ain't gonna treat you like that. You will be treated better. There will be accountability. You will be encouraged to, as I always encourage you, to hold the government accountable. You're gonna guess where you're gonna get a cash grant. You're going to get direct cash transfer from the natural resource fund of this country, backed by law. That is what the coalition is offering you. Look at the policies of the coalition or the proposed policies of the coalition, and you will see that you are going to be in a better place as a citizen. Why do you want to continue to hold on to a group of people who wait until a few months or a year before elections before they recognize that you even exist and you deserve to get a piece of the national pie? Tell me. The PPP in government for 20 plus years, including this last 5, has not found it necessary or possible to fix a single marketplace in an African Guyanese locale. But they come a few months before elections and they throw some petty contracts at people, some $500,000 contract, even $5 million contract. And people are willing to sell their souls to these demons. Stop holding on to the PPP as your hope, as your lifeline. I was saying to a friend of mine last night, the only way fish get catch is because you open your mouth. Having been deceived that the person who threw the bait on the hook into the water was feeding them. You ever sit and think about it? When somebody sits by the water edge and they put on the bait and they throw it in the water, fish run and they open their mouth and they gobble. Hey, they love us, they're feeding us. They're being benevolent, they're being nice to us, they're feeding us. They recognize we deserve some food. Huh? And the hook stick in your throat and you get pulled up. And then you become a meal. You become a meal. And so all those of you running around, hey, the PPP giving me things by the PPP giving me small, stinking, cleaning, gutted contracts. They believe it's the only thing we could do, but y'all didn't see it, so. They're giving me $4 million contract. While just one for near the PPP could afford to lend a friend $400 million. Any of you who getting these contracts from the PPP can afford to lend a friend $4 million? Without cargage especially? Well, listen to the traffic chase tape. 400 million one man could have lend another because they ain't the money now. And we running around, or some of us running around saying that the PPP is good off. They can't fix one single market for us. And I keep telling you, if you don't understand the importance of a market, why continue to stress on this market business? If your vendors, your suppliers in your communities don't have a proper marketplace to which they can store their things and pay to carry it there once and store it there, and therefore keep their costs down, you will continue to pay more for your supplies. I passed the Lusignan market last evening coming from Parfait Harmony. It's brightly lit. You can actually have night markets there. And that is economic empowerment. Show me where the PPP is empowering you economically in your African Guyanese communities. And even those people are being empowered at Lusignan market, tell me that you don't deserve better than a sheltered tarmac as a marketplace. Because you still can't store there. Tell me you don't deserve better. The only way you're getting better is if you get rid of the PPP. But it's 28 minutes past the 7 o'clock. Oh, you have to forgive me. Let me see if I call Mr. Jordan, if he's going to answer. You know, the PPP is like an abusive husband. Beat the spouse into subjection, beat the spouse into low self-esteem, and then come and pretend to be the savior. Mr. Jordan, good morning. Welcome to the program. How are you? Early this morning, if I continue talking, I got so much on my stomach that you ain't gonna get no place this morning, so it's best to bring you in now. You know the brooklets you talk about there reminded me of my father. And my sister said they always eating out everything the man bring home. And this day he bring home brooklets. It looked like chocolate, yeah? and, and he and he left me there. Next day was a whole lot of shit in the house. Yeah. Yeah.
Worked many years at the Ministry of Finance. But more particularly, he was known as the barbecue guy at my annual birthday bash that I used to entertain up until 2019. But after COVID in 2020, I haven't held one since. But he was there, very nice guy, very friendly, very affable. And so it came as a great shock to me. He's only early 60s. Great shock to me that he had died. And subsequent inquiries indicated that he died by self-immolation, aka suicide, death by suicide by burning. You know, apparently he was having some domestic issues and so on, and ultimately he locked himself in his house and burned it down with him inside. So really, really, really sad and shocking. And forgive me if I mentioned barbecue early on. I know, in a sense, barbecuing himself, you know. So I was really again put in a state of mourning and shock at this loss of somebody who was close to me. And if I could say anything about him, he always looked up to me, both in terms of a person who he wanted his children to aspire to, and both in terms of someone who, when he wanted advice, he could have called me or come to me and talk to me. He always said to me, I was always a person, a simple person who can be approached by anyone. You know, and so once again, it's really heartbroken. So condolences to his wife and his children, and so he has reasonably small children also, and so I hope somewhere along the line they can get assistance from the state. His funeral and burial is this Sunday. That's much I know, that his funeral is taking place from his home in Sophia, and burial thereafter. That's as much as the arrangements that I know at the moment. Of course, last week I should mention the death also of a dear friend, Mr. Cecil Dujan, who died at age 96. I worked quite a lot of times with Mr. Dujan on legislation, financial and related legislation and regulations, especially he was the chief parliamentary counsel. And so we always had to talk to the chief parliamentary counsel when we wanted measures, budget measures, and so on, turned into legislation. And so we worked very closely. And it was, well, we all have to go. It was, again, heartbroken to hear him go. Someone, again, who thought very highly of me, and who will always let people know how much he thought highly of me. So, again, condolences to his relatives and family and so on. I think he was buried earlier this week. And then, of course, again, the deaths continued, where I learned that George Edwards, who was formerly a manager of the GBTI, but more well known as the general manager of the Guyana Stock Exchange, also succumbed to that deadly disease called cancer. And you may not know him, but you will know of Clyde Rupchan, who I know is a Buxtonian and who did great things for Buxton to such an extent that he has a street, I believe, named after him in Buxton. His daughter Sharon was married to George Edwards. So George Edwards would have been Clyde Rupchan's son-in-law, right? And Sharon Rupchan currently is the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Trade, Ministry of Trade. And she was formerly, prior to that, she was at University of Guyana as a lecturer in the economics department. So yes, so that's somebody who's close to Buxton in some way. And again, condolences to Sharon and the family, relatives, and friends of George Edwards. So, as I said again, we all got to be thankful for life. None of us know at the hour, so we got to live life and live it to the best of our ability. Don't postpone for tomorrow what can be done today. And don't reflect on yesterday if it can't improve today and allow you to progress to tomorrow. Okay? And that is not a quote from anybody, it's one just coming from me. So the campaign trail is eating up. Campaign trail is eating up. And on the one hand, you have the beauty of the APNU, the youngsters. That is what I like about the APNU, the youngsters and the quality of the youngsters. You know, I've been listening to a number of them, Borbal, Corbin, Jeffrey Thomas's daughter, a whole set of them. I saw a young lady from, I think it's Haslington area, and so on. Bright young people who, this being their first foray into politics in terms of being on the stumping ground and so on, don't appear to be nervous, seem to be very, you know, as if they're seasoned about doing this and so on. Very, very impressive set of youngsters. Of course, I believe Corbin is a touch above them. He reminds me a lot about young Bornham. And as I said in a post somewhere else, that he has a bright future if he stays the course and if he's not mentored by those who are the elders in the party and so on. But as I said, it's a joy in terms of listening to them and see them do their thing on the stumping ground. When you and you have to wonder where the youths in the PPP, you know, they jump out there hollering how they're 40 and 50% of their slate is youths and so on. But everywhere you go, you see Jagdio, you see Ali, and sometimes the Tagalang Mark Phillips. Even in a little area like Alexander Village, they have to run with Ali and Jagdio. They can't even give the others a little chance. They have to run with Ali and Jagdio. That just goes to show you how desperate these people are. How desperate these people are. You know, they can't afford to expose the youngsters they claim that they're on their slate and so on. They have to turn up to ensure that the crowd turns up. All right. So I say to APNU, do what you're doing, multiply it, give us wide an exposure as can to these people, and victory will be assured come September the 4th. Uh, you don't have to, and I'm glad you are not concerned yourself about these reports or trying to size crowd, or I don't know what that would mean, to size crowd. In Guyana's context, especially under this government, nobody is guaranteed a crowd except the government. So to the extent that you could have people actually turning out to opposition rallies and meetings and so on, it's a tribute to their bravery and their resilience. Because with drones and whoever is infiltrating these meetings, it's a guarantee that if those persons work with the government or work with certain private sector places or depend on the government for a contract or a because we care grant or something, you can rest assured they will lose it, as so many have been doing. It's not for want that people don't want to come out. It's the fact that they are afraid to come out. So when they're reporting, whether it's the national media, the private media, or social media, that speaking to a small crowd or speaking to a few people, what is it that what is it that they're implying? That the people don't have support? Those people have a lot of support. Do they check the social media to see how many might be listening online? Do they know that on the various platforms? So I agree with the opposition people. Don't let the noise in the market determine the sale. Continue what you're doing. Like I said, you don't have to pay anybody to turn up to your rallies. If you have a rally in Lusignan and you have 30,000 people, do you already see that as a farce? When you add all the people who live in Lusignan and the adjoining villages, do they come up to 30,000 people? And when you look at the long line of cars and donkey carts and buses and trucks and bicycles and motorbikes and so on, do all those people live in Lusignan and the adjoining villages? And when you look at the crowd and you see regular faces, do those people, those regular faces, live in Lusignan and the adjoining villages and also have houses in Georgetown, West Demerara, Linden, Bartica, Rupununi, such that they're torn up at all these meetings? It could be that these people, Jagdeo and Ali and Phillips and all of them, are talking to more or less the same people that they're caravanning all over the place, rather than speaking to the people who live in the areas where they're holding the meetings. So APN, you stay on course. Don't get distracted. This morning doing my exercise, I was very pleased to be able to report that I've converted 2 youths to voting for the APNU. Yes, while walking this morning, somebody called my name and I looked back and I said good morning and so on, and we got to talking and so on. And I asked them if they're registered and so on, and if they're voting. They told me not, they're not voting. I said, why are you not voting? Mr. Jordan, the system is the same, we can get work, this and that, and it didn't make a difference and so on. And I quickly chat and told them. They said, but yes, Mr. Jordan, remember what you did for us when you were in government, and we hope that you're going back. Well, I didn't want to disappoint them as such, but we left at that. And I said, listen, if you don't vote, you're going to be voting for somebody else, or you're going to be voting for whoever wins this election. So every vote we need. So question, can I count on you guys to go out there and vote, right? And remember that what I did for your group and so on when we were in power. They say, all right, Mr. Jordan. All right, yes, Mr. Jordan. So hopefully I've been able to bring 2 votes to the APNU. And 2 things will stand out there. Reach one, teach one, educate one, and ask them for vote for the APNU. And we have to do that. Right? This is how you have to mobilize in the absence of large chunks of money and so on. On your daily walkabouts, you meet a friend, you talk to them, you ask them, you find out what is the situation and so on to make certain that they vote for APNU. And even if they are voting for somebody else in the opposition, still convince them why they should vote for the APNU. Because to not vote for the APNU is to waste your vote. Let's be blunt. It is only the APNU can seriously challenge the PPPC. So vote with your head rather than your heart. Your heart may be for one of the smaller parties, but let us be blunt. None of the smaller parties got any hope of winning the presidency. None. In fact, almost all of them ain't got any hope of getting even a seat. But they will be flaking off votes that will rightly go to a stronger, united APNU and making life more difficult to achieve the presidency on September the 4th. So we have to continue this over the next couple of days, reaching one, teaching one, educating one, and then telling them why they must vote for APNU. The second issue that came out of that brief encounter is the issue of not voting. What Bonham called the fence sitters. And as I jokingly told a taxi driver this morning as I rounded the corner, I said, man, why are you wearing black instead of green? He said to me, boy, black is a neutral color. Well, the first time I'm hearing black is a neutral color. But I suppose he meant it's not green, it's not red, it's not purple, it's not yellow, it's not blue. It's black, right? That is his idea, that it's a neutral color. And being a taxi driver, he didn't want to wear a color that might have jeopardized his chances of getting fares and so on. But I said to him, man, you must be proud of whoever you have in mind to vote for. In other words, pick a struggle and then go after the struggle and make certain you win. But ultimately, I could see where he was coming for. But the main point here is sitting on the fence. Bonham said, such persons are liable to be shot from both sides once you sit on the fence. You're liable to be shot on both sides. You got to pick a fight. You got to pick a struggle. Earlier this week, I was reading a pretty good commentary, very incisive, by one Akola Thompson or something like that. Akola Thompson or something. Very incisive commentary on the treatment of African Guyanese and, you know, the whole thing. It should be on Facebook still, and I should read it. But for me, the whole thing was marred by her confession that she had long stopped voting, ostensibly because all the parties are the same, or they say the same thing or make the same promises, ostensibly because she wanted to appear to be unbiased, in terms of what she was saying and so forth. But I took the opposite view. Again, here are our ancestors fought, and she's talking about African Guyanese and the treatment. So here are our ancestors, African Guyanese, fought for the right to be free. Again, because they were freed people when they were captured and brought here as slaves. Fought for their right to be free and independent. Shed blood, tears, sweat, labor, free labor, and the ultimate death for that right. That right has been won, and you have now that right. Vote for your future, vote for your destiny, and so on. And now you are making light of your ancestors' struggle by claiming you no longer voting. Or in one case, or in a couple of cases, I remember a Major General saying he never voted. Again, what is it that you're trying to say or portray? So while you're sitting on the fence, saying you're not voting because all the parties are the same and they make the same promises and so on, others are voting, hoping to make a change so that their lives and their families' lives and their relatives' lives and everything else can be better. And since you, the non-voter, don't live in a cocoon, but you live in a community, in a village, in everything else, whatever benefits coming from that community, from those who voted and got the right people in place, you are benefiting. You will benefit from it. And when you don't vote, resulting in the incumbent remaining, even though you want the incumbent to go, but your vote, which would have pushed the incumbent out, you didn't vote. And what you don't realize, when you don't vote, you voted for the whoever wins. And all the hurts and slights and marginalization, everything that comes down on the people, on the community, on the villages in which you live, you will now have to bear that. So there's a lot of work to be done. Unless it's a religious thing, as in the Jehovah's Witness, who don't vote because of religion, it is hard to me to appreciate and understand why folks claim I ain't voting because all of them are the same. All of them make promises that they don't keep. You know why they can make promises that they don't keep? Because they know that they have a pliant population of voting bloc. Had they had a revolutionary voting bloc, they would not make promises that they can't keep. So when you say educated people telling you that they're not voting because all of them are the same, educated people telling you that, what must the others, the large majority who are going out there and vote, who are braving the weather to vote, who are going to stay in the rain and vote, and who are making certain they're voting to make a difference? What difference are you making when you say you're not voting? What difference? So when I read the article, as I said, the article was quite incisive, good commentary, right, and so on. But that one stuck in my throat. Stuck in my throat that such an educated person could feel that she's being unbiased in the commentary because she don't vote. In other words, you don't pick a side. She didn't pick a side. So our commentary, nobody, you may think that you are being unbiased by claiming that you don't vote. But your opponents don't feel the same way. Trust me. Your opponents don't feel the same way. So I would say to people, disabuse yourself of this no vote story. In as much as I don't want to split up the vote, even if you don't want to vote for the APNU, go vote for one of them small parties. In as much as I don't want you to split up your vote because it'll make APNU's life harder to win back the presidency with these pieces of votes flaking off all over the place. But don't waste your vote by not voting. And don't come with this catch-all thing about all of them are the same. In life, you got all kinds of different people. But if you want change, you can't sit in your armchair and criticize those who are making the plunge in the hope of making a difference. Yes, you got a lot of armchair Monday night quarterbackers and so on, of what could be and what can be. But they never step out of their safety armchair. But they're always out there willing to criticize. They're the ones who know what should be, what could be, what can be. But they don't make the effort to come out of that armchair and go join the struggle. I know many of them. They can criticize the coalition from now to eternity. But when given an opportunity to join now to make the difference, I don't get involved in politics. I don't get involved in politics. That's the excuse. From the day you conceive, you're involved in politics. You're involved in politics, whether you like it or not. It's just the level changes over time. So you can't, you can't have your house broken down and you're mashed into the mud at Moko or at Hillfoot or in Linden or at Success or wherever else. And you can't live in Plastic City, Canvas City, wherever else you're doing, and tell yourself, tomorrow I gotta go to work, so I got time for vote. We have to get people, educate them that without your vote, the struggle will get worse, and the ability to make the changes will lessen. All right, so that is the much I wanted to see. And on this campaign trail also, maybe that's why some people don't like politics. Not saying that shouldn't, I'm not saying that that should deter them from getting into politics, but maybe that's why. When you look at the nastiness, vulgarity that is infesting the PPP campaign trail, I say kudos to the other 5 parties who have kept a clean campaign so far. The nastiness I heard some guy named Leno Craig or Leonard Craig or something like that, who I know for sure was in the AFC, went over to the PPP, beneficiary of a scholarship to China to do a PhD under the coalition. Not sure where that went. But I understand this guy is a pastor in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And some of the nastiest, most vulgar stuff I heard him on a campaign trail a couple days ago, addressing women, mainly women, men, children were in the background also. Vulgar, lewd, salacious, I suppose, pastor in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. I heard a big man like Mark Phillips, Prime Minister of this country, talking about the Londoners, how the coalition do the Londoners without grease. And a runner and a high jumper, Joe Hamilton, from the good and green Georgetown to the PNC, to the PPP, talking about Azuddin Mohammed being carried out of Guyana in a box to Venezuela. All of these things on the campaign trail, all under the PPP, all being said by people of African descent. What it is about some of us, especially when we leave other parties and go to the PPP, that we have to go to extremes to convince the leadership of that party that you are with them. You all remember the same Edil in one of the elections, where he claimed that if Jesus were to come back to, or if Jesus were to come to Guyana, he will vote PPP. Once again, another person of African descent going out of his way to prove his loyalty to his new party. And you know what is really, and that is why you have to give credit to the APNURB Norton and Amanda Walton from FGM for their prescience about not turning up for a photo opportunity to sign some piece of card with the Ethnic Relations Commission. Because notwithstanding this degrading, vulgar behavior, the Ethnic Relations Commission has not come out with a single statement. Has not come out with a single statement decrying such acts. And of course, the observers are waiting to file it in their report at the end of the elections. They're not going to put it in a preliminary report or observation at a press conference. And you're saying to me that notwithstanding the massive abuse that has been taking place of women in this country, every day you wake up, some man kill a woman and all this kind of story. Notwithstanding that, you're telling me that the women's organizations in this country, none of them got the gumption, whether it's the WRSM or the Progressive Youth Organization or the Women for Change from the AFC, you're telling me none of them ain't got what it takes to come out with a statement decrying this lascivious behavior of these people, decrying the sexualization of women on the campaign trail. You're telling me none of them can't even come out with a statement? Because their absence from the public emboldens what is going to further be said on the campaign trail. What happened to the leadership of the PPP in coming out and saying, or either they can't disassociate themselves from the comment because the people were on stage in their red shirts talking on behalf of the PPP. In one case, when Craig was making the lewd comments, Jack Dio was right there on the stage. And if they don't want to associate themselves with those comments, they at least could come out with a statement saying that our party does not believe in that. The person might have been a bit over exuberant and so on. But make the person apologize for the statements that they made. They're tasteless, tactless, and everything else. And I can't see how that can add to the whole aura of the party. Can you imagine the youth and the young children who are listening on Facebook or in that crowd and watching their elders blowing their whistles and their whatever else they have and waving their flags when such statements are being made? What it is that we are telling our young people, telling our children, telling these people. So ERC, I hope you will come out with a statement today or tomorrow and make it very plain that all y'all sign a code, and this is not part of the code. You can appeal to people in clean ways, even with double entendres, but not in this lewd, crude, classless, tasteless, tactless manner, where everyone of these Guyanese African descent seem to want to outdo each other, perhaps hoping that they will catch the eye of the leadership and either save the place in the next round if they were to win, or at least get their remembrance for any other position that might be available, if not in ministerial position. After all, it is Jagdeo himself who said, not every minister is guaranteed to return. So, who knows? And I like how Mr. Mohammed, Ajuddin Mohammed, immediately came out to debunk the nonsense, which anybody knew it was nonsense, about frequency of visits of Ajuddin and his father to the Venezuelan embassy. I mean, let's just for one moment say that indeed these people were frequenting the US embassy. The Venezuelan embassy. Under the laws of Guyana, is that a crime? Under the laws of Guyana, is going to an embassy on several occasions a crime? Just assumption. Let's say it were true. No, it's not a crime. After all, in the bad old days, British people had their spies out looking to see who going to the Russian embassy, and so clearly nobody would go to the Russian, and they had all their little thing, leaving a note here, leaving a note there, and so on. It wasn't that it was wrong going to the Soviet embassy because there was no ban on it, but clearly they were going to be interested in the activities. So if Nazar Mohammed and his son were visiting the Venezuelan embassy on several occasions, why didn't you call in them? Why didn't you let the police call them in and ask them what exactly, or why are you visiting the embassy on so many occasions? Because critically, Venezuela is perceived to be an enemy. And so we'll want to know why you're going there. Are you selling secrets, if you have any? And then you can do whatever, do your tracking and your tracing and whatever. But to just come out and say how you have noticed these people have been visiting the Venezuelan embassy frequently, and you call and hear the rubbish. You call in the Venezuelan ambassador. What you calling him for? For asking what? Man, I noticed as Nazar and Ajuddin visiting y'all steady, what they're visiting for? The government again is not the employer of the ambassador of Venezuela. So he's under no obligation. And in fact, I believe it's a violation of the Vienna Convention on which those people operate. But on earth you calling in the Venezuelan ambassador to ask him what? And then you claiming how the Venezuelan ambassador say they're applying for visa? Which ambassador from any country going to tell you the nature? Which ambassador is going to tell you the nature of their dealings with people, whether they're citizens of the country, non-citizens, or citizens of the country of which the ambassador is? Which ambassador is going to come and tell you that? Who these people think we are? I mean, as Mohammed is such a threat to the PPP that they are going all out in all situations and under all circumstances to get the man. I didn't realize he was that big a threat, but now I'm waking up that indeed he must be a very serious threat to them for them to go to these outlandish and outrageous methods and approaches to get to him. So he has challenged them. Show me. Because it is easy. They got a lot of cameras around there. Show me that I am going into this embassy here umpteen times. And he's given the Venezuelans permission to print or to show any application that he has made for any visa. Some people speculate, oh, he must be going there for asylum. Why? I mean, of all the countries he could pick, he can go to Venezuela for asylum? He got to be a crazy man. People are running out of Venezuela, not running in. I wish these people would treat us with less of the contempt that they seem to have for us, and more of an understanding that we are quite literate people who can see smoke screen from smoke. I ain't no fan of Ajuddin Mohammed, nor his father. I already indicated to you all, met the father twice while I was a minister. And you requested some privileges, I refused. So maybe that is why Azuddin Mohammed, in one of these conversations that he himself messaged a month or two ago, in which he claimed that he had it rough under the coalition. People will have it rough under the coalition when you avoided taxes for years, and we were going to put a stop to it and enter it. It is not GRA who disclosed to me, but it's the very Nazar Mohammed in his second meeting when he came to see me, in which he told me that he took advantage of the amnesty that we had declared in 2018, I think it was, and he had paid over $1 billion in back taxes. Not GRA told me that. It's he came to my office and told me that. And why he was telling me that? Because he thought that in paying $1 billion in back taxes, everything was kosher. But he failed to understand that the amnesty was premised on you declaring your true income. If you declared your true income and the GRA was satisfied, then the amnesty would apply. So he thought that paying the $1 billion in taxes, that everything was okay, except that the GRA then subsequently called him in again. So he was concerned. You know, he paid off and so on. And I said to him, listen, I can't do anything for you. This is within the hands of the Commissioner General. The Commissioner General, under the law, can continue to assess if he has new or additional evidence, or if he thinks that in your previous declaration, you didn't declare all of your income. And I can't do anything about it. You have to go talk to the Commissioner General and utilize the mechanisms that are in place for appeals. Because you had the Income Tax Tribunal, and then if you're not satisfied with that tribunal's ruling, you can go to the court. But I wasn't prepared to intervene. So maybe, as a result of all of that, they felt that the coalition was bad. They felt that whatever contribution they might have made to the purse of the coalition for elections, that they weren't getting the returns and the dividends from it. I don't know. But clearly, Azuddin in his message said the coalition treated him badly. So I have no love for them guys. None whatsoever. But like everything else, they're Guyanese and they're citizens and they're entitled to rights and so on. And it is this very government who are in bed with them all the time and now seeming to drop them like hot cakes. And it probably ain't got only to do with the OFAC sanctions. It perhaps seems to be deep-seated, deep-rooted. It seems to go further. But hey, cockroach ain't got no business crawling in hen country. Right? So let me stay out. Let me stay out. Who knows? Maybe they will implode and everything will come out. And of course, on this campaign trail also, I can't help but continue to be concerned with the absence of legislation dealing with the behavior of governments during the election period. I can't help but be concerned. As I said, the level of resources available to this government is unheard of in the history of this country. And the lax laws or no laws to prevent the continuous spending, the continuous cutting of ribbons, the continuous turning of sod during an election period must be serious cause for concern. Nobody, not even Win, but Azin Mohammed with his billions of dollars, could come close to what the government got. None. You just got to look at the money, the enormous sums of money wasted on flags, and think how much that money could have gone. Whether we don't even know where the money is come from, or we do know. But a visitor to this country now would probably think that they landed in Germany rather than in Guyana, especially since Guyana is notwithstanding all our international summits and whatever else, Guyana is still not well known internationally. He might very well have thought that he arrived in Germany with the number of German flags that proliferate. Even in nooks and crannies, small streets, side streets, and all these different places, you have German flags. Tell me where that money is coming from. Where that money is coming from. And do the observers genuinely believe that this is some war chest that was created from donations and so on? Of course, the European Union has consistently called for campaign financing, but that's all they did. They call for it, they will put it again in their reports, nothing will happen, and this cycle will continue. So you ultimately only got the democracy because the vote hasn't been taken away from you. But that is about it. That is about it. This is like an elephant and an ant trying to compete for the prize. This is nothing fair about this. This is nothing fair about this. And notwithstanding all of the resources that are available to them, the poor opposition even is shut out from the national media. A media that is financed, especially the television media, that is financed from the treasury. And the newspapers, they're financed by the proliferation of ads that is given to them. The Chronicle. The opposition is shut out from the national media. And it is settled law that during the elections, government must make certain that opposition parties get equal or equitable access to the national media. I want to, in this regard, quote from a 1991 decision, High Court of Zambia decision about the right of opposition parties to access to the government media. And it says, in a 1991 High Court of Zambia decision, the court, in commenting on the proper role of a publicly owned media, said, quote, in the case of newspapers, they are supposed to be run on the basis of journalistic principles and ethics, free from any outside interference. These principles dictate the coverage of all newsworthy events, regardless of the source of such news. Anything less than this, and it is very easy for the general public to assess, whether or not a given newspaper is working according to sound journalistic principles and ethics. End of quote. Then there's the UN Observer Mission at the 1989 Nicaragua elections. That mission stated that it was necessary for, quote, all political parties to have equitable access to state television and radio in terms of both the timing and the length of broadcasts. Even further, there was the UN technical team for the 1993 Malawi referendum, which made similar recommendation. Quote, in the case of government-owned media, it is customary that equal access, both in terms of timing and length of broadcast, should be given to the competing sides to form the arguments. End of quote. Now, and I know there are plethora of other cases, reports, and so on that subscribe to the principle that opposition parties must be given equal or equitable access to national news media. But here, a country and a party that criticized the PNC on the bottom, a party that allowed access of the opposition to Radio Demerara and GBC and the national newspapers in accordance with seats that they held in the parliament. Here, the government doesn't have the decency, first of all, to allow coverage, allow the NCN and all them coverage during this elections period of the opposition parties. Coverage where those opposition parties are allowed to do their broadcast, not the reporting that is done by the NCN. Because all they look for is who had 10 people versus the PPP's 10,000 and so on. Or anything negative to be said about the opposition parties. And again, where are the observers? Oh yes, they are waiting until the end of September to make their report, when the boat would have long gone a falls. Where the CARICOM observers? Oh wait, they don't even know if they're observing these elections. But don't they have some rights commission or all these kinds of things that they can speak without the observers? As I said, this here is an elephant and an ant. Tremendous resources at the control and the behest of the government. Just yesterday, I think it was, they're torn in sod. Couple of days before the election, they're torn in sods. When will it end? All of these things, when they lose on September the 4th, now are going to be faced with a new government. A new government whose policies on the stumping ground gets buried because they come and reach all of these different projects in various stages of implementation. Whether it's contracts already awarded at the last moment, sod torn, two uprights already in the air, money's spending like wildfire. There's no end to this. And while I will give kudos, big kudos, to the private media in the form of Stabroek News and Kaito News for their coverage of as many rallies as possible for all the parties, rallies and meetings of all the contesting parties. I will pelt the biggest of brickbats to a number of the others including 94.1 FM, who in all of their existence, and with the exception of a few instances during 2015, 2020, then they were forcibly, or when they forcibly invited a few ministers from the coalition government. They invited me twice. I think Patterson went once or twice. I believe, I may be wrong, but I believe Home Affairs Kemraj might have gone there once. With those few unlimited exceptions, they have never invited the opposition to present the other side. Never. And it has always been made worse during elections. There they have Jagdeo Pomposettin on 94.1. Ramson seems to have a special place there. He's always invited and so on. But they will never, and they have never invited an opposition parliamentarian, an opposition minister, nothing. But then they have they out there and some of their announcers and so on, some of them sound so ear-headed. They want to pronounce on opposition, but never give the opposition a chance for them to come and outline their policy and educate the people. And all these hack programs that they have now, starting point, start, all of them are the same, you know. They don't invite opposition. They invite the government, known, and those so-called people from the opposition who have crossed over. Those are their starting point. Jagdeo again was on starting point, extolling and everything else. But they have not lined up to invite any of the opposition so that they can come and give a view. So that's what I'm saying to you. Elephant versus an ant. Almost every conceivable space is dominated by the government. So how this can be free and fair, observers? How this can be a free and fair election? How? Everything is dominated by the government. So I don't believe that under these circumstances you could have a free and fair elections. And I'm not even talking about the GCOM again, because I've made a lot of comments on them on Norman Brown's show earlier in the week. This is a GCOM, as I said then, and I will say again here. It can't be reformed. GCOM can't be reformed. You have to close down GCOM and start over fresh. Because GCOM is like an old house, where instead of you tearing it down over time, you've begun to put concrete additions to it. And now the institution, the building is tearing itself apart because the concrete is walking away from the wood. That is what is happening at GCOM. That is what is happening at GCOM. Can't reform GCOM. It has to be torn down and built from the bottom up all over again. including all the laws, including the constitutional changes, and so forth. Why I say that? In Jamaica, Jamaica's election is September the 3rd, 2 days after Guyana's election. The Prime Minister called Jamaica's election for September the 3rd, giving the opposition 3 weeks and giving the Jamaican Election Commission 3 weeks to get them the act together. And they didn't. The Prime Minister had to consult with the Jamaican Election Commission to determine whether he could name election. He named election within the construct of the Constitution. And he expects the Jamaica Election Commission to be ready and compliant. 3 weeks. There's been no complaint from the Jamaican Election Commission. Well-oiled machinery already kicked into gear. They're always at the ready in accordance with the Constitution for any election that is called within 3 weeks. That's all they need, 3 weeks. And they're ready. And we're talking about 2 million voters. Not a bloated list. Not a list where every conceivable ruse is used not to pair the list, not to cut the list. Imagine you got to go get your death certificate and carry it into GCOM and whatever else before they can remove a dead from the list. I am guaranteeing nobody in Jamaica does that, because it is the duty of the boards and deaths to send in every death that occurred in Jamaica to the Elections Commission. Why the hell a relative, and you maybe have to prove that you're the son or the daughter and all the nonsense that they have there? Jamaica doesn't have a bloated list. Nobody's complaining about the list. I think previously there were concerns about the lists and the machinations of the list, and they once and for all cleaned up their act. But now you got a list in Guyana that is almost equal to the resident population in Guyana. And the observers, of course, didn't see nothing wrong with that because they've never commented. They've seen nothing wrong with that. Hundreds and thousands of people over time have died overseas, and they're still on the list. And you're claiming you can't remove them from the list. And you have great machinations where they don't want to change the laws or the Constitution to clean these people off the list. Take them off the list. If when the elections time come wrong and somebody doesn't see their name on the list, they can make a claim and objection. But you're telling me you're keeping all these 200 and something thousand names on the voters list because you claim how you can't remove their names. Nonsense. And if the judiciary says you can't remove it is Parliament's. It is for the Parliament now to pass a law to have those names removed. If you want a clean voters list, if you're interested in clean elections, if you know that you can win elections cleanly, why is this obstruction, rules being put where you can't remove these names from the list? And until the Chief Justice came up with her decision in 2019, I think it was, about house-to-house registration. House-to-house registration used to be done literally for every election in this country. And the very list for which the Chief Justice passed pronouncement on was the result of a house-to-house registration, previous house-to-house registration. The house-to-house registration in 2019 was meant to update and refresh the list. But the Chief Justice says, nah, that is unlawful and illegal. And adding to the problems now is that the at the termination of the exercise in 2019, all those names were then added to the existing list, just ballooning the list. I saw this morning reading something where somebody's complaining bitterly that her mother died 13 years ago. Used to vote somewhere in Supply on the East Bank. 13 years ago, and her name, her dead mother, is still on the list. Still on the list. And notwithstanding the problems that you had in 2010, 20, where there was credible evidence, because before all the foolishness that took place subsequently, it is the Commissioner of Police, who's the Chief Immigration Officer, who sent information at that time showing that people voted who were not in the country, and dead people voted in the 2020 elections. In the 2020 elections. And Mr. Granger is right to sue all of them who he has sued so far. I don't know when the case is going to come up. Who talking about him was a rigger and all kind of story. And ultimately, his probity and his decency and his cleanliness and his uprightness and whatever else he did do in it will come out in the court. Because when he signed that recount order that people blaming him for, when he signed it, he signed to two aspects of the recount: the quantity and the quality of the recount. When they finished the quantity, or in the process of going through the quantity, as they were setting aside questionable and suspect votes to be determined during the investigation on quality, suddenly you're here, we can only do quantity, but we ain't gonna do quality anymore. Again, as I said, not many people are going to agree to Granger's stance. Not many people. Because if you signed an agreement in which the court found to be valid, that the recount order was valid, but that recount order had two processes: a quantitative count and a qualitative count. The qualitative count never happened afterwards. Never happened. And all kinds of machinations took place subsequently. All kinds. All kinds. When the matter went to the Court of Appeal, the Court of Appeal ruled only valid votes must count. Only valid votes must count. Our Constitution says our Court of Appeal was our last judicial outpost when it comes to elections. Then you suddenly hear, oh no, the CCJ is our apex court and therefore they're the last, even though the Constitution never recognized that. The CCJ determined that they were the last now. And so they overturned the Court of Appeal. And they said a vote is valid as long as they're in the box. The vote is valid as long as it's in the box and it conforms to the whatever. So you have valid votes and invalid votes, but they are in the box. An invalid vote might be a spile vote or a vote that you can't determine what was the intention of and so on. But otherwise that they are all valid in the box. So they're not interested if that vote in the box was a dead person's vote or somebody who voted outside of the who were outside. They weren't concerned with that. A valid vote in their understanding is in the box. You have valid and you have invalid. Invalid because it doesn't subscribe to the to whatever it is, whether it's the intention or the X mark the wrong place or you defile the vote or whatever. But otherwise it's valid. So dead people who voted and people who voted but were not in the country were counted as valid votes. So the recount order was observed in the breach. And yet, Mr. Granger didn't complain because I didn't hear he said, listen, since I signed this thing and this was the intent and y'all didn't think it, I disabused myself of it. He didn't say that. But they got them out there running, who collecting the soup and drinking the thing, that jump from one party to the next, to the next, to the next, and all the 50 and 60 years in, to stall the man a rigor. And of all the hearts and so on, for a top political person in the Caribbean calling him a sanctimonious gangster. Well, as I said, I don't know when the matter will come up in court, but hopefully he celebrated his 80th birthday recently, and hopefully he'll continue getting health, and you will see whatever is the results of this thing. But that is some of the stuff that we will have to face. That is some of the stuff that we will have to face. And GCOM, with this bloated list, I totally fear, F-E-A-R, for the outcome. I totally fear. And I say that not guardedly anymore, because none other than the leader of the opposition is warning that he's not going to accept a 2020. The portents aren't very good. And GCOM is not in a good place. Is not in a good place. You know, and I will touch briefly on the scandal, briefly, that has erupted, the explosive scandal that has erupted. There are lots of things in there. But in relation to this GCOM matter, a most disturbing part, and the GCOM chairman must come out and clear her name, because her name was called in the tape. She must come out and clear her name, or to state clearly, because Mr. Junior Bash in the tape claimed that he lent 2 of his bulletproof vehicles to the other party, and one of those vehicles was used to ferry the chairman of the Guyana Elections Commission during the 2020 elections. Now, if the chairman feared for her life, is it a case that she didn't trust the Guyana police force? How is it, if it's, as it's been alleged, that she was being driven in a bulletproof vehicle belonging to a private party? How is it? You know, that when I heard that, I'm telling myself, the coalition was in power. Mr. Kemraj Ramjatan was the Home Affairs Minister. And then the other person was the commissioner of police. The chairman says she was a friend of the now dead Amna Ali and so on. And if she feared for her life, I'm sure there were a number of options. She could have called her friend Amna Ali and thing. She could have called Kemra Jamjatan and asked the thing. She could have called the commissioner of police and asked for protection and so on. And I'm sure they would willingly give her. So how this business about bulletproof vehicle belonging to Mr. Junior Basha, according to the tape, how did she end up in such a vehicle? And Kemraj, I hope at your press conference tomorrow or sometime, you could state what exactly you knew about that or you didn't know about it and so on. Because, look, this is a highly charged society we're living in. And elections bring out the worst in some of us. And so we'll want to know that GCOM, a so-called autonomous independent institution with enormous resources available to it, that can hire its own guards, its own everything. But how will you end up in a private vehicle? According to this thing. So the GCOM chairman must come out and debunk it, that she was in any private vehicle, or what was the intent there and so on. Because you're going into another election where the same GCOM chairman is in the same position and asking us to be trust and be confident in her and her team. How can you be when these kinds of revelations come out? Who was guarding the chairman? Were it private guards? Who was the private guards that were guarding them? Were they affiliated with the PPP? So there are a number of questions that came out of that tape that either needs investigating, but I will come back to that quickly. So that is some of the issues coming out of the campaign and the campaign trail so far. I heard the ballot papers have arrived. The ballot papers have arrived and the ballot books and so on. And the discipline services will be voting on the 22nd, I think it is, of this month. And I would want to urge all those who listen, because I understand several of them listen to my program on Thursday. I will urge all of them first to vote APNU and to urge all their friends in the discipline services to vote for the APNU. Don't worry this business of all the promotions and so on. Those are your right. Those are your right. Worry with those that will bring you long-term survival and benefits, not only to yourself, but to your family. Worry that you want a fair system, not one where you have to depend on the politicos and a leadership that depends on the politicos before your concerns could be addressed. The one party that is make certain that performance will get you where you got to get. It is hard to be working in a political environment where you have to succumb and suck up just to get an extra stripe or another dollar. It is hard to be working in an environment where advantage is being taken of you. And I know many of you express the kind of advantage that is being taken of you. I know many of you have expressed that. Now is the time not to forget all the years of hurt and marginalization and victimization for a one-time promotion. Now is the time to seek your own vengeance through the vote. So when you go into that box on the 22nd, going with a clear conscience that you want to see change. You want to see a meritocratic system in place. You want to see one where you don't have to do 2 and 3 jobs, where you don't have to go as a bouncer at one of the clubs, or drive a taxi, or be forced to do other nefarious or moonlighting activities, while the rest of your family, your children and your wife and so on, have to worry about you as you earn this extra dollar just to get basic things in the society. Don't be fooled by the recent promotions. Those are one-off. Think about long-term. Think about your longevity. Think about whether you're going to have to continue doing moonlighting activities, whether you're going to have to be doing hire car activities, whether you have to be worried whether X place is going to take back the car or some sort of thing because you can't meet the car payments. Think those things when you go into the box. And I'm APNU, and I am telling you, APNU got your back, has always have your back. Now is not the time to be won over by blues and reds and webers. Stick with what you know. Because what you know have been with you in times of good and in times of bad. And please don't make the mistake that you made some of you made in 2020. Some of you thought you voted for APNU when you voted for another party with a similar sounding name. Please look for the palm. Look for the palm and place your X. Make certain the X doesn't touch any border. You're voting twice. Voting up on the ballot for general and voting down on the ballot for regional. Please. A number of you made the mistake in 2020 of voting for another party that sounds similar to the APNU. And when you came out, yes, we voted for you. And then when you're thinking, no, that was what not you were supposed to vote for. Make your vote count this time. So we're counting on you. Now, quickly to this explosive tape where people are running left, right, and center with denials, lawyers' letters, and whatnot. I just want to pick 2 or 3 things out of the tape. But the tape clearly indicates the level of corruption that is taking place in Guyana. I mean, this was known. The level of corruption in Guyana has been known. I mean, they've got all kinds of evidence of it. But when it comes to the goal, right? And I see my friend Terence Campbell has mentioned also fuel. And he's threatening to take to court some people involved in the fuel. And in fact, I read some place also where diesel, the smuggling of diesel into Guyana is more lucrative than even the smuggling of gold. I didn't see any figures provided, but that was what I saw. But coming back to this gold issue and these promises these promises to investigate, these pious promises to investigate. We're going to investigate this gold smuggling, and we're going to get to the dealers, and we're going to form anti-gold smuggling committees and all this kind of story. But haven't we heard all of this before? Of course we have heard all of this before. We have heard all of this before. I don't know how many you know, but sometime between July 1995 and I would say March 1997, just around Shelly died. Somewhere in between that period. I rather think it's sometime in 1995, if not in early 1996. Ian Chang, who I believe at the time was still at the DPP's office. I think he was the director of public prosecution still. If not, then he would have left and gone into private practice for a short while before he went back now into the judiciary. But Ian Chang, so I'm not going to put the DPP label or private practitioner label because I'm not sure if he was still at the DPP office. He might have been, because I'm talking here between 1995, somewhere around July and March. Ian Chang was tasked with investigating a gold smuggling scam that had been unearthed, a fairly large gold smuggling scam that had been unearthed. But it had been kept quiet because you know why? I was in the Ministry of Finance. I had just gone back into the Ministry of Finance in 1995. When I saw him come into the ministry and go to a certain office, and when he came out, I went to that same individual and I said, I saw Yan Chang here, what he came for? And he said, he investigating a gold scam there. So he brought a preliminary report to me. But that's all I seem to remember being told. But he had that. So we don't know what came out of that. And it probably wasn't even made public. Well, first of all, no report in this country has ever been made public if it implicates anybody connected to the political bureau. So that went. Then again, in 2012, y'all remember what happened in 2012? Yes, in 2012. Check all the newspapers, you will see. 476 pounds of gold was stolen in Curacao from a Guyana boat. It is alleged that this gold was smuggled from Guyana. It is also known that the boat might have departed from Suriname. So even though the gold was smuggled from Guyana, the boat had departed from Suriname. A little rickety boat, they said, that had 476 pounds of gold, worth in excess of 11.5 million US dollars. 2012. Nothing came out of that story. 13 years afterward, we still don't know publicly whose goal it was. We know the name of the boat. We know the name of the owner of the boat. But we don't know whose goal it was publicly, because privately names have been mentioned. We don't know publicly whose thing. And there was no determined effort. There was no determined effort to bring the culprits to justice. None whatsoever. So this issue just died away. And the country lost 476 pounds of gold, worth 11.5 million US dollars in 2012. Right? At today's value, that gold would probably be worth around about nearly 50 million US dollars. Not the same amount of gold. Because gold prices now are in excess of 4,000 US dollars compared to 2012 when the price might have been just about $1,000 or less. And so, because there has been no determined effort to stop gold from being smuggled, it is no surprise today to be hearing on a tape the even greater magnitude of gold being smuggled out of Guyana. And the network, the complex network that has now mushroomed. Jagdio talks about the Chinese being involved. Not today the Chinese being involved in gold, legal and illegal. Not today. But they must state how the Chinese got involved, who the Chinese are connected with, and they're getting a free passage. So don't tell me what Chinese are involved. We got all kinds of people in this place, anti-money laundering, this Soku, Kanu, all these different people. And they are acquiring intelligence like never before. So who is protecting whom in this business here? You think they didn't know the amount of gold that is alleged that Azudin was smuggling out? You think they didn't know this? You think they don't know who else smuggling out gold? Azudin might have been, and his father might be the victims of the OFAC sanctions, but there are many more who are in bed with this government who were on a list that was made available to the coalition government when we came in 2015. In 2016, for example, then Raphael Chatmon, Minister of Natural Resources, was arguing that an estimated 15 ounces of gold was being smuggled out of Guyana weekly. Weekly. Now, 52 weeks in a year, 15,230, right? 15,575 and 378. That's 780,000 ounces of gold that being smuggled out in a year. He says 50 to 60. 15,000, an average of 15,000 ounces being smuggled out overseas weekly. And he estimated that 50 to 60% of the gold smuggled out to Guyana, with a percentage of the gold that is being smuggled out coming from Colombia, Venezuela, and Brazil. And up to last year, there are reports that up to 50% of Guyana's gold production was being smuggled out of the country. Up to 50%. And last and in that year, gold production, gold declaration was about 434,000 ounces. Official gold declaration. So even if you go by the official declaration and take half of that, that's 217,000 ounces of gold. An extremely conservative figure of gold that is being smuggled out again. So we are not going to be hopeful about any new investigation into gold smuggling into this country because it is too connected. The network is extensive and connected. And while you may trap somebody going through the airport with a couple ounces of gold that it exceeds what, and you make big noise about in court and all kinds of story. Those are like the weed pushers and the small cocaine people who go in with a couple grams here and so on. The big ones never get caught. They never get caught. Look at the big supply that was caught in Region 1. The big supply of cocaine was Region 1. Did you know who owned it? Have those people been caught? No. And that story has died down. The same thing with the gold. Curacao, who owned it? No. Anybody prosecuted? No. So all these pious statements about investigation has been going on and on and on and on. But we know it ain't mean nothing. Yes, you are going to try to please the Americans by getting two, even if it's a medium fish, and put them before the courts and so on. And then what happened afterwards? What happened afterwards? So this goal tape, if you want to call it that, has pointed us in the rape of this country that is going on. And so when you hear you can't pay teachers and you can't pay nurses and all these kinds of story, it is the rape that is going on. Only a very tiny few who are benefiting. Tiny few who are benefiting. I always ask myself, do we need all this money? You know, billionaires, do they need all the money? Aren't you going to die? Isn't that money going to be left? And when it's left, who's going to use it? You? Who's going to use it? Do we need all this money? Look at the poverty that we got in this country. Look what the good Lord has blessed us with in Guyana. Look. And imagine, we can't control what we got to such an extent that you have this massive smuggling, but you didn't step back. You gone and hand out 5 more gold mines. 5 more gold mines, this time to the Canadians. You don't have the regulatory environment. You don't have the policing environment. You don't have the judicial space. You don't have the human resources to be able to control, monitor, police what we got right now. But now you're adding more to it. 5 more gold mines. These people getting access. They're getting their own airstrip, their own wharf, their own everything. So they can be able to fly in planes here, just like OMI. They can be able to fly in planes, fetching the gold, fly it out. And you say, oh, I got somebody down there monitoring it. Oh, I got some customs person who writing down and so on, monitoring it. Listen, these things are bigger than you think. Bigger. And as soon as you think you close one loophole, it's like a hydra. It's like a hydra. Ask the Americans when they find a tunnel. When they find a tunnel from Mexico ferrying people and drugs into the United States. You think there's only blast that tunnel? They have to go and check for the anal tunnels. Because they know it's not that one tunnel, it's several more around the place, and they have to blast them out. But when we cut off a tentacle, you know how many more to grow back? It's like a cancer. That is why cancer, when you cut it out, you got to radiate and you got to do chemo and all these kind of things. You got to constantly monitor it to see if it's coming back. That is what the gold scam and the fuel scam and all these scams are about. Their tentacles sucking the life out. Sucking the life out of the rest of the population. That's why we are bleeding. We are bleeding. We are pleading even as we are bleeding. But nobody is listening. They're not listening. So we ain't got no thing about investigation. We don't have that. Because to attack cancer is not to attack what you're seeing on the surface. You have to go to the root. And some of those roots are like oak tree roots, green heart roots. They are embedded and they are so strongly connected that when you chop on the top, those roots grow back, spring out. It's like you do on the bushing when you chop on the top. You're on the bush and allow them to spread out more. That is what you have in this goal. And we call it a scam, man. This thing is not a scam. This thing is not a scam. It's not a scam. When you look at the people, known and unknown, who are involved, it's not a scam. Not a scam. It's a carefully coordinated system that the people employ in smuggling massive amounts of gold out of Guyana. And by the way, it's not only gold. It's not only gold, because gold right now, as I said, fetching 4,000 plus US dollars an ounce, and therefore that is the top of the table. But diamonds also. One time when I was minister, I was concerned about the declaration of diamonds. I said, how diamonds could go up so much? Why? We must be we must get one of them South Africa fields. Careful investigations showed that the diamonds was coming from Venezuela and mixed with our diamonds. And that was known internationally. You see, by the next year, diamonds plummet, diamonds declaration plummet. But like I said, this is what take place. The government comes in. We had, with our measures, we were getting a fair amount of declaration. Fair. We never thought that it was the best, but we have a fair amount of declaration. Government comes in, they wipe out all the different taxes, this, that, taranaro, and yet still they were getting less. Then they made a couple of threats, and then suddenly gold declaration go up a little bit and so on. Don't you know, or don't you think that the government knows they are being played? They are being played. You really think they can do something about not being played? So it is up to you guys if you want to think that you're going to get anything out of this. Not going to get anything out of this. And teachers and nurses and doctors and all these different people, they are going to continue to complain. They're going to continue to make exodus. And we're going to continue to fool the people that we are going to pay them more because we expect more, not from the economy that is producing it, but from the oil. So everything now is on oil. Oil. Not the rest of the economy that is producing oil. Right? The heavy dependence on oil. And then there's another part of that tape. I've said to myself, oh boy, I don't know when we can come around to really get things straight in this country. In the tape, it is alleged there that Bosch lent $799 million to somebody named Sahadio. Sahadio claimed to have repaid $1.696 billion. And he said Bosch is demanding an additional $460 million, arising from some increase in the interest rates between 5 and 10%. You all see the kind of transaction. And this is one little transaction, I understand. And this is a transaction that appeared to be going on outside the framework of the banking system. Y'all see this kind of money? Does GRA know about this? These kinds of money that are being bandied about? You got your own banks that taking place, like the old time things when you couldn't get a bank. You go and you go to a friend or you go to a money lender and so on. All this is taking place outside the framework of the. No wonder we can't collect taxes in this country. No wonder. It's a carefully hidden exercise that is taking place. Carefully hidden exercise. And what about money laundering? What about money laundering? Because all this money that is being made, clearly, people must be concerned. It can't pass through the banking system. So it has to be laundered in other different ways, whether it's gold or diesel or so on. It gets washed and comes back clean. And then again, everybody wants to know why you have this shortage of foreign currency. Well, since in our days, as a minister, I could tell you one of the causes or one of the reasons we found for shortages of foreign currency is that the notes were being ferried to Venezuela, especially the big notes, because the $100 US dollar, right? They didn't want the 20 and so on. That's why you got a lot of little notes for, pervading the cambio. Whenever you go, you want $1,000, give $1,000 and $1 and $5 and $10. But the hundreds, the notes in demand, are ferried to Venezuela to pay them generals and so on for the gold that is being smuggled, the diamonds that are being smuggled, and whatever else is being smuggled. So as fast as the money is pumped from the Bank of Ghana into the system, it disappears. It disappears. And then we want to know why the rating is not appreciating, or why the rate is not stable. Why you can't go and get a little 200 US for travel. Or if you get it, they give you a lot of $1 and $5 and $10 and so on. Why? So the whole thing is interconnected. Those are some of the takeaways I took from the tape, that essentially there's widespread corruption, especially in the gold industry, that Venezuela and Brazil, at a minimum, their names were called, right? Not necessarily the authorities, but people from these two countries, that in Guyana, it appears as if high, medium, and low-level Guyanese are involved, that there's serious movement of foreign currency one way that's out, leading to what we are now seeing and witnessing as the shortage of foreign currency. Because the goal is only one place. All them Chinese and other businesses that coming in here and bringing all them things and opening all them shops and so on, where you think they got to get foreign currency to send back the money out? Guyanese, we got to wake up. We're not waking up. We're not waking up. And of course, we got from the tape heavy tax evasion that is taking place. I don't know that GRA can do much more than they are doing, because for them to do more, had they been on my command, indeed, they would have been able to do more, because they were under command that gave them a carte blanche to do whatever it was required to do to bring in our revenue. Unfortunately, all of that changed after 2020. So I don't know. There are pretty good people at GRA when I left there, well-qualified people and so on. And I'm sure they are chomping at the bit to be able to be given the freedom that they were given during 2015 to 2020 to do their job. Well, you can make it possible come September the 4th. Your destiny is in your hands. Quickly. I note in Kaito News, August the 13th, 2025, which is yesterday, I think. On the heading that says bids open for construction of drying facility region 2. It says that the National Drainage and Irrigation Authority, which is an agency of the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Agriculture, received 10 bids for the construction of a complete drying and storage paddy facility in region 2. It also said that the project is estimated to cost $2.735 billion. $2.735 billion. This already opening is a party in reaction to visits by opposition leader Aubrey Norton to the region, where farmers had bemoaned the inadequate storage facilities, among other problems affecting the rice industry, and that Aubrey and APNU had outlined plans to construct storage facilities and supply affordable inputs to farmers to reduce production costs and increase yields. All right. So 13 and 18, 19 days before an election, a general and regional elections, the incumbent is opening bids for storage and dryer. 19 days. Not if we win, this is what we have in mind. 19 days. So here's the question. Was this amount covered in the 2025 budget or any supplementary budget? And the answer is clearly no. Because Ali went there in April of 2025, heard the problems and said government is going to look at it, including whether to do a thing. That's April. That's long after the budget. No monies were there. There was a supplementary in May. No monies were in there. Where is the government getting the monies to build this drying floor? Where? Where is this money coming from? You can't say the contingency. Well, you're not supposed to go to the contingency fund because contingency fund is for urgent priority that can't wait for parliamentary approval. Where's the urgency and the priority of this? Where's the money coming from? Then, why is the NDIA, the National Drainage and Irrigation Authority, the execution agency for a project that is named construction of drying facilities? Why is the NDIA? According to the NDIA's mandate, it is meant to deal with all public matters pertaining to management, improvement, extension, and provision of drainage, irrigation, and flood control infrastructure and services. Did you see anything there about drying floor and storage facilities, NDIA? How does the NDIA become the executing agency for the construction of drying floor and cold storage? How? And then who will own this structure? The government? So the government is taking over a private sector role because you got private sector people with drying facilities and there. It is just that facilities are not enough and not up to standard. So the question is whether there are any proposals for giving incentives for them to expand their facilities, or in terms of the ownership of this one that the government is doing, whether the government is going to hand this over to a cooperative or something, and let the cooperative run it as only cooperatives can do, and the government share ultimately in the dividends and whatever. The concern must be that the government is increasingly taking over activities that are within the domain and the realm of the private sector. Even here, they could have gone a public-private partnership, but the government is taking $2.736 billion out of the treasury to build a facility, which I presume they are going to run, going to have to meet the expenses and so on. Is this the best use of resources? Even as you try to help the farmers overcome a really serious and critical problem. It's a road that have been traveled before. There was a time when Guyana Rice Board had owned silos in Kingston. Silos. When we ran into trouble with and had to go to the IMF, GRB, Guyana Rice Board, was then split up into GREB, Guyana Rice Export Board, GRMMA, Guyana Rice Millers and Marketers Association, and then another rump of GRB. We have traveled that road before, with government getting increasingly involved in productive activities. It got us into serious trouble, whether it was bauxite, sugar, and so on, rice and all, got us into trouble. We are throttling back into that, into that. Throttling. It's as if we're not satisfied that we got a heavily subsidized GPL, heavily subsidized GWI, heavily subsidized all the NDCs and town councils, heavily subsidized sugar, heavily subsidized other public entities like Chronicle. Yes, because you're subsidizing them through the massive ads that you are giving to them. And others. We're not satisfied. We're throttling. This is the waste of oil resources that afflicted a number of countries, for which we have the lessons, but we choose to ignore at our peril. We choose to ignore at our peril. And of course, the government cannot point to you to one study that would have resulted in whatever they are building today. Not one study. We don't know what it will be the capacity of the storage, because we didn't know any study as to how rice will increase or nothing. But we gone there to build cold storage, right? Because we're racing to get the votes of the farmers. So Kadaki, if you don't hear me anymore after this, it's because we get blackout, because I see the lights going and flickering and all kind of thing. I'm going to bring this program to an end anyhow, because I don't want it to. So you have that. And of course, you have to ask again, what are the limitations of a caretaker government in the context of elections? Because here you continue opening projects of this magnitude. Thus, cutting the ground out of any new government that comes to power other than the PPP. They will be saddled with these projects because they will make hay out of them if you seek to not do them. They did this to us in 2015 and they went crowing in Parliament about we executing only PPP projects. So they're doing it again. So we have to be careful. So Kodaki, yes, it gets worse. So thanks for another Thursday. And I see the sun is coming out and we'll go on and enjoy the sun. So until bye.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. Thank you, Mr. Jordan. Great program as usual. Have a great day, and I hope the light stays. Yes, y'all. So it's 25 minutes to the 10 o'clock. We have had a marathon session with Mr. Jordan, and you've heard all that you need to hear. And I don't have anything else to tell you, except have a great day. It was good having you. Continue to share the program. Tonight, there are meetings around the place. I'll be speaking at Brush Dam. Brush Dam is the eastern section or eastern neighbor of Buxton. We call it Buxton still. Black and White Bridge Brush Dam. So I'll be out there tonight. And I'll see if I can also bring you some live streaming. To be honest, I'm thinking I want to experiment with a couple of devices tonight. In terms of live streaming, but we'll see how that goes because I'm a speaker out here tonight. And I'll talk. Yeah, I know I like talk. Enjoy all the I see one of them cussing me about my no teeth or my missing tooth. Let me be accurate. Well, partner, if this is the only thing you could tell me about, ain't got no problem. You got one missing brain. And there's a problem when your brain missing, when your brain dead, right? I don't have a problem with my missing tooth. I wear it with pride. And it is not that I don't have the capacity to go and get it fixed, but it is because the dental people, the specialists, have given me certain advice, right? And so if you want to know what happening with my teeth, my tooth, or my dental health, it might be wise to sit down with some of your family members. You know what I'm talking about. Some of them know me good. So you know me well. We did already. That sounds like a Sparrow special. So you could inquire around your family circle. What's going on with Amsterdam tooth? Why he got the missing tooth and he isn't doing anything about it? Okay. Or maybe you're waiting until the APNU takes government to get dental work valued more than an alien. Yeah, remember who's Alien Mouth? Alien Mouth come from the PPP. Alien Mouth come from the PPP. But Alien is not popular right now. Nowadays, people looking at Range Rover and Bezel and so on and so forth. So maybe I will go and get some dental work valued the price of a Range Rover at the expense of the Guyanese people. How about that? Because it seems like y'all like corruption. Y'all crabs who just come here for cost and tell we know nothing but business and so on and so forth. And we're lazy and so y'all like corruption. I sure enough for y'all singing the praises of all of them that robbing this country. This country billions, hundreds of billions of dollars through corrupt practices. Good. So don't hold me mouth. Don't hold my missing tooth. Go look for your missing brain. Intellectually lazy, intellectually dead. Javier gonna continue to walk all over y'all because y'all are so darn stupid. His words. And y'all living it every day. DCI ignoring them, I feel like cause this morning, so like cost them. Sometimes they just tickle me for your cost. They just tickle me for find out which family member and me got a close relationship and so. So there's got to tell them. Right? I see why I'm consistently asking over the week when we streaming meetings, where the crowd. Most nights you're asking for the crowd, they say don't remember you. When you're the rum shop or drink rum, the crowd is doing by you. It's happy hour. I'll have a good day. Goodbye. See you tomorrow. Yes, person. How may I help you?